Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Haunted Raven After Hours podcast. I am very excited for the guest that I have today. That is Nicole Nightfall. And if you guys don't know who she is, you need to check her out because she's like the best psychic out of New York. Super incredible. And I'm not fond of a lot of psychics. You really got to prove that to me because there's a lot of people nowadays that can easily claim, oh, I'm a medium or a psychic, but Nicole has scared the shit out of me numerous times. Uh, so, welcome, Nicole. How are you?
Hey, I am good. How you doing? So, hold on. Before we go any further, when you say I'm the best psychic in New York, that's of course your opinion. I don't go around saying I'm like the best whatever of New York, but I appreciate the
She does.
compliments.
She does. She holds
I
a gun
do.
to my head, actually. No, I'm
It's
just
on my
kidding.
it's on my
No,
business
that's
card.
my own opinion. I don't really know a whole lot out of New York, anyways. But
Right.
you have always like topped it for me because
Oh,
you've told me
thanks, Joe.
some stuff, and I'm even like, how, Nicole?
Yeah.
So, no, you pretty much have proven to me that you're pretty damn good. So,
Yeah, I
yeah,
think we've been around each other a lot for you to at least experience a little too much of it, maybe, where you're like, all right, Nicole, tone it down a little bit. But yeah,
there's so many
you've
times
got
where you freak me out, and you know when you do it because I just give you this look, and I'm like,
you do.
what do I do?
We have it on camera too. It's probably in any episode we're gonna end up doing together. So it's
Yeah,
that's how
all
you
the
react.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get told my facial expressions all the time are like top tier, and I'm just like, but they're real reactions. Y'all have no idea what I'm going through in that moment. Okay, so
For real.
all right, Nicole. So, obviously, I know you, but a lot of these people don't know who you are, right? So, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh man, that's always like the dreaded question, right? Like even in job interviews, and they're like, "Tell us about yourself," and you're like, "Oh, where do I start?" And get kind of
I
panicked.
feel that. Yep.
Uh, and then like a lifetime of things flash before my eyes. But just to keep it as if I were going back to handing you a business card that does not say "Best Psychic of New York," um, it's even weird calling myself a psychic. Like I guess technically I'm in like the scope of that, but when you say psychic, you think of a lot of different things, especially weird, negative, or whatever cultural stereotypes come with that. But I'm really like a channel, still a psychic, but I guess this is me being a little, I guess, pretentious by saying that. But I just get a lot of downloads of information, whether it's about the living or the dead, or even tapping into whatever sort of memories in a location. That's sort of what I do. I mean, there's a lot more to it, but I'm also an occultist. I practice Italian folk magic, plenty of other sorts of witchcraft. Whenever I say that, people are like, "Oh my God, Satan worshiper!" But I don't work with any devils or demons. Although I have a respect
Oh
for
no, we
people who
love
do.
witchcraft over here.
Yeah, that's after hours. That's the after hours podcast is when we start summoning things. But yeah, or in at Norwich, per your
We
last
should get
episode.
to that one. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
We're gonna touch on that one, so be prepared for that, guys. We'll hit that up towards the end here, but we definitely want to hear about Nicole first because that's how we're gonna understand uh the next part of this. So,
Yeah,
uh,
so I've been practicing a long, long time, like over 20 years. Started when I was a teenager with practicing. My first Ouija board was absolutely my gateway drug at 8 years old. Ever since, I've been obsessed with the paranormal. And these days, all I do is pretty much teach classes on witchcraft, folk practices, the paranormal classes. I do investigations, which you know, and I do
yep,
a lot of readings, virtual, in person. I do events. I do all the things I
all the
can.
things.
Except for human sacrifice. Wink.
I was gonna say, wait a minute, what did we just do last week, though? Hold on, no, God, be careful because people could be watching this and then start reporting us.
For real.
Don't want that right now.
Seriously. But yeah.
Um, so how did you said you obviously started as a teenager, right? So how did you get started into doing your readings like more so and stuff?
Oh boy. Well, I always did it kind of like with my friends or I kept it to myself really. It
Mhm.
was very private for me. But I would say around COVID, and this is when we call it like the witches boom, where everybody all of a sudden came out and said they were a witch. Well, I kind of always was, especially with the paranormal and necromancy, if you will. But it what happened was I actually am a writer too, and I submitted to HBO. a couple times and it got pretty far. And I was very much into this book and getting it made into an HBO series. And after my second rejection, even though I got really far with it, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start making content on TikTok and Instagram about all the witchy stuff. And even me, because I used to make spirit boards and go around. I was like, let me just like really lean into this and get weird with it. Right.
Yeah.
And it really took off. Like I got 20,000 followers on TikTok. Like it was insane, like within like a week or two of starting my account. So, and it snowballed from there. And then all of a sudden I'm getting asked to teach classes and again, really leaned into doing the readings because people were asking me for it. And here we are today. So,
Okay. Um, so let's talk about how did you first know that you could communicate with the other side? I don't want to say with the dead. I feel like that's like I don't know. But when did you first realize that you were capable of more than what you could say the a normal person could do?
Uh, this is the thing, you don't really know, right? Especially, I'm a millennial, so back in that day, all you really saw online was like Wicca stuff or like
Mhm.
very new age psychic stuff, which of course helped a little bit with what I was curious about. But going back to the first Ouija board session, my dad had got it as like a gift and he was very much into scaring us. And at that age, I was a little sensitive to being scared, not like today,
Yeah.
believe it or not, Drew. Yes, I used to be very scared as a child by a lot of things. I couldn't even watch horror movies, like nothing. I would get like so freaked out. We were using the Ouija board as a family. And my dad wasn't using it, but he was like in the kitchen. And all of a sudden, he was like, "Oh, who does Nicole have a crush on?" And all this stuff. And it started spelling out this guy's name. And
Mhm.
he got so freaked out. He was like, "We're done." And I don't know if that's because of psychic channeling or again, the idiomotor effect, whatever. But that's
Mhm.
the first thing that stands out. But I was seeing a lot of spirits when I was trying to go to sleep, and it would really scare me because they would be like right up against my face, and it would wake me up in the middle of the night. And that's even before the Ouija board stuff. Like I always had this weird, like when I was sleeping, stuff was happening. And
Mhm.
then when I got older, I started practicing automatic writing. I was around like 13, 14. And I'd be in class, and the pen would just start moving on its own when I'd be writing, like, and I
Mm.
was getting like messages and I was like, okay, this is getting a little crazy. So from there it kind of snowballed for me.
Okay. So it's
Yeah.
not like, you immediately saw a dead person just standing in your living room or something like that.
No, I mean, when I was sleeping, I would wake up and I would see different spirits. And what's weird is once I woke up, and this, I still think of this and it gives me the chills. I woke up and there was one like floating, like above me, not touching me, but
Mm.
above me.
Mhm.
And they fell on me. And of course they disappeared, but I was screaming. And now
Mhm.
I think what that is looking back is I don't know if they were trying to mount, which you know what that is, like whether it's like some sort of attachment or possession or like they're trying to really communicate and didn't know how to do it. I still to this
Mhm.
day can't be sure, but looking back, that might have been what happened. But that one freaked me out the most, obviously. Who wants to see a dead person floating over you like this close to your face? So
Yeah, I don't
yeah.
know if I'm cool with that one,
Yeah.
especially if I'm trying to sleep and you just open your eyes and you see that. Well, I'm not sleeping
Yeah.
tonight, I can tell you
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So,
Now
um,
these days I just say go away and they're gone and I don't care. I'm like I gotta sleep. I gotta go to work in the morning and they're gone. But it's not as intense as it used to be. Let's just put it that way. When I was that
see,
age.
I used to be so freaked out, and it wasn't until I met you and Maria that was like, "You just need to tell them to go. Like, get out. This is like, buck up to them." And I'm like, "No, what? You guys
Hmm.
go up to them? What? I'm
Yeah.
gonna throw something at me." And now, like, I feel well enough that I can do that now. There was one time I had to up, actually in this area that I'm at, and I was very scared after I said it. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was like, "Yeah, go away," and then I'm like waiting for that after effect to happen. I'm like, "Oh god, okay, no." But yeah, I see what you mean there.
Yeah, you gotta be confident with it or they won't take you it's like dealing with the living. You gotta be confident and mean it. And for the most part they obey. And yeah, just gotta treat them like the living sometimes.
Nah, not when they're over here watching me walk around and hype myself up for it, and they're like, "With this fucking guy."
This guy again. Yeah.
um, so actually, this is actually going back to what you said that you actually, you used to get scared. Believe it or not, this is
Mm,
why I was kind of like, there's gonna be one question that you're gonna be such a smart ass for. So,
maybe.
what was your most terrifying experience that you've ever had?
Oh boy. Um,
Because I'm like, Nicole doesn't scare
the
easily.
thing is, I think of
Drew scares
so
easily, not Nicole though.
yeah, I think of so many things, and I'm not really. I don't know if it scared me or just really, really proved to me that there's something going on here. Because even though I'm very much into this stuff, like oh, I always have a touch of skepticism, even though you might not believe it with everything I just talked about. But you
Mhm.
experience it enough, and you're like, okay, there's something going on here, right? So
Yeah.
I was at the Shanley Hotel, and we were broken off into groups, and I was down. First of all, we were in the gentlemen's quarters, and
Mhm.
I had started picking up the person that was reading our group said, "Does anybody know what this room was before?" And
Mhm.
not knowing anything about the Shanley, I think it was my first time there. I had said it was a bar. And I said it very matter of fact because I was seeing almost like this split timeline, right?
Mhm.
And she was like shocked that I said that. And I think maybe she thought I knew about it ahead of time, which fair. You never know what I know, right?
Yeah.
And then I had said as people were talking or whatever, and people were asking some, I feel like triggering questions to the
Yep.
spirits that were there. And I was seeing all of a sudden like knives and like fighting and like really violent energy. And I said, I think we have to either apologize or leave because something's about to happen. And shortly after I said that, I watched this woman in the center who was also a channel.
Mhm.
Her eyes rolled in the back of her head, and she started choking. And she was like, it was like something out of The Exorcist. I'm not even joking. And people were witnessing it. It's not just me.
Mhm.
And we had to remove her from the room and just get her the hell out of there because it was terrifying. Like she was like choking. It felt like.
Yeah.
So we brought her out, and then after everything like calmed down, she was like, "No, I'm ready. We can go back downstairs again." I was like, "Damn, like you think I'm a trooper?" This girl was like, "Let's go." So we
Yeah.
went downstairs, and again, I start getting this feeling like something's gonna happen. And at this point, I'm like gaslighting myself, like you're just paranoid, like because of what just happened
Yeah.
upstairs. And I said, I was like, I feel like we need to go again. I'm the party pooper of the group. I'm like, let's end this shit and like go upstairs. Sorry, am I allowed to
Mhm.
curse? But yeah, I was pretty
Oh,
much
I've been
cursing at
cursing.
that point. Yeah, and because of what I said last time, the another random girl in the group who I didn't know like went to go
Mhm.
upstairs with me. Everybody else stayed. And I went to go turn the corner of the stairs and I look over to the left and there's this giant like smoke like and this sounds so dramatic, but I swear to you I'm not the only one who saw this. The girl
Mhm.
with me saw it. Giant like smoke figure coming like flying out with of course the trope red eyes,
Mhm.
and it was coming flying at us and we booked it up the stairs like just because we were like this thing's coming. So we're up there and we're sitting there in like disbelief, not even talking to each other because we're both like processing.
Yeah.
And I was like, did you see it? She was like, yeah, the red eyes. I was like, yeah. So we're sitting there and then all of a sudden we hear like shouting,
Mhm.
and people running up the stairs. Like we must have been up there for like a minute, right? And
Yep.
they're carrying one of the girls in the group, a different girl,
Mhm.
up the stairs unconscious. She like passed out randomly. And I went out on the deck with her and somebody else, and she woke up. And when I tell you what was looking back at us was not her anymore, because we
Mhm.
actually knew this person. And she said some stuff to me that rattled me, stuff I've never told anybody before, like my deepest, darkest stuff, and like we're
Mhm.
coming for you and all this dramatic stuff.
Oh,
So
hell no.
ever since then, and then I see this woman out, and sometimes she's fine, but then I would suddenly see her face change, and she'd just be like staring at me, and I'm like, she got something's there, something's happening. So
Yeah.
that, as dramatic as that sounds, that was probably something that always stands out when people ask me that question. Is that entire experience?
I I would say that's pretty damn terrifying.
Yeah.
Because that's some stuff that you just don't see on the normal at any
Nobody
point in
believed
an
me.
investigation.
Nobody believed me. The psychics I knew at the time were like, "Oh, you're making it up. You're exaggerating." I'm like, "I'm not the only person in the group who witnessed and experienced this. Like, there was
Did
like
you get it on
multiple
footage
people."
at least or
No,
anything?
we weren't recording. It was just like a tour, like an event.
So it's
Um,
just like
yeah,
something that randomly happened during that time. Ah, that sucks because then it's
yeah,
like, if I had the recording or something to prove it to you guys, you would see that I'm not lying or anything like that.
right. Oh man, yeah, very overwhelming for sure. So yeah.
Even I I wouldn't know what to do if I saw something like that. I would probably be just stunned in like that moment and just like standing there like in shock.
Yeah, and I think what she said to me out on the deck, even all that other stuff I said, probably scared because like how can that be made up or like you hallucinate that? Like how does somebody know like your deepest, darkest, like either insecurity or fear, like and look at you dead in the eye and like say it to you in like a different voice too. She wasn't herself. So whether that was possession, maybe there's a mental health issue where maybe she just magically guessed very personal stuff about me. I don't know, but it rattled me and I think of it all the time.
Fuck. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um. So when you go off and you investigate, right?
Mhm.
Do you ever look at anything like as a like when you investigate, do you take it as like a scientific approach, or do you take it more of as a spiritual approach with everything within your background and stuff like that?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think when you're a little too woo woo about things, it loses a lot of authenticity.
Hmm.
Spiritual psychosis can very easily become a thing for anybody too. Like, I mean, you and I see this all the time in the field. Anybody, even paranormal investigators, like yeah, we can believe things, but sometimes people get ruled by certain things and you have to kind of stay a little grounded. You know what I mean? So it's very important to always like yes, experience things in the moment, but always question and try to like dissect what's going on either in the moment or like right after the moment or afterwards, you know.
Yeah, that is always important. So following this one, then, right?
Mhm.
What would you say if you use if you use these things, what would be your most favorite piece of equipment to use? Because a
Oh,
lot of
with
people
using
obviously approach it with like the doing everything spiritually, just listening and everything else.
Mhm.
But like you use some equipment.
Yes.
So with that, like, what would be your favorite piece to use that you feel like is really pretty accurate with readings off of it?
Well, you already know the answer to this question, but thank you for asking. I am obsessed with the Phasma box, and
Hmm.
as a channel, I feel like it's extremely interesting when I'm saying things and the box is saying things at the same time or
Yeah.
is saying things that correlate to what I say. So for me personally, as a psychic channel I kind of consider myself a human spirit box from time to time because it always like aligns with that. And Phasma boxes too, especially, it's an app that doesn't require access to your microphone. Like you don't need any permissions. So it's not
Mm.
listening into what you're saying. It has no access to that. So it can't.
Okay.
And you know from using the Phasma box too, sometimes the voices are extremely clear. And with me, I've heard people who have crossed over their voices crystal clear to me that I can validate knowing that that's their voice and saying things that are intelligent responses, even if it's my name. So
Hmm.
I don't know how, and I use the device I use it on too. There's nothing else on that computer. I don't even use the internet to look up things. I just have it used for Phasma box and use it for nothing else, which I think is important when you're using any sort of app, you know, just to keep it just designated to that.
So, could you compare that to like the Phasma box? Can you compare that to other apps? Because obviously, we like you said, it is an app. So, can you compare it to other apps such as like Spirit Talker or GhostTube or even Necrophonics? At that.
Yeah, I can. I've used Necrophonic in a pinch, like when I'm out somewhere, because it's like right on my phone. But
Yeah.
again, when it comes to the legitimacy of apps, whenever I feel like it's on your phone, who we know will think of something and it'll show us an ad. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm
Yeah.
exaggerating slightly. But when you talk about something, it's always listening. So to me, again, personally, because I know people are like super protective of their ghost tube and their necrophonics. So, but personally,
Hmm.
I feel like just because of that alone, it makes it a little bit more inauthentic. And especially if it's asking for access to your camera and your you know your microphone and stuff like it. Just to me, I feel like you should always question it at least.
Yeah. So you're saying like if you're not getting well, if you're getting responses, right, but it has nothing to do with like being lined up or anything, you should definitely question it.
Well, yeah, and I think if you're getting responses too, and you're kind of just piecing together your own narrative with things, like I think again if it says things like names directly or locations where you're at or you know things that are super hyper specific, yes, but it's kind of like when people use like an obelisk or like a word bank device. I'm
Hmm.
not a huge fan of those because a lot of people they just see like a bunch of words, and we see this all the time with like YouTubers and even of course Ghost Adventures, like they'll piece together this like wild narrative to make it like force those words into
Hmm.
evidence. And
Yeah.
again, it's fine if you do that, but for me personally, I'm just like not like if it's there, fine, but it's not
Hmm.
something I would solely rely on. Absolutely not.
Yeah. Okay. Um, alrighty, so now we're gonna dig into some good stuff here. All right.
Okay,
So
I'm
I'm gonna go
ready.
ahead and switch this around. Let's let's get into the good shit, right?
I'm ready. Hit
You
me
know what
with
I'm
it.
talking about? Yeah.
I think
Okay.
I think I'm suspecting there's a taste of cotton candy in my mouth. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, cotton candy, huh?
Yeah.
um, let's talk about Norwich, right?
Mhm.
And our experience in that lovely, lovely place.
Well, we've had a couple experiences, but I know you're talking about the last time we were there.
This
Yes.
last time was just wild to me because
Yeah.
it was nothing really that I've ever experienced before.
Mhm.
You had your little spot right at the very beginning, which I
Mhm.
want to touch on,
Yeah, go ahead.
and then we had my instant where I was like being an adventurer and wandering off on my own. And then
Fun.
obviously, thankfully to have Nicole to always, as soon as she sees me go off anywhere, she's just I'll never forget that time when we were at Madison and I was like going off and you scared the shit out of me being in the stairwell. And I remember I was like, "What are you doing?" And you're like, "What the fuck are you doing?" I'm like, I don't know."
Yeah.
But you're like,
And then
"I knew you'd be
I
here."
think I don't remember if I grabbed you or I told you to stop and I was like, put your back against the wall. And you were like, well, I don't know what's happening. You know, it was kind of like I was ordering you around, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fine because sometimes I need that because we'll talk about that.
Yeah. Okay.
And then obviously, I really want to touch on the last part, which I
Mm.
feel like some people may have gotten, some people may not have understood
Oof.
what the concept was.
Mm,
And I can understand that because it's like
100%.
one of those things that's like super hard to like. Are you
Yeah, it's
sure that didn't
obscure.
happen?
Yeah, and it takes a little bit of occult, not necessarily paranormal knowledge. You need to have like
Oh, I
occultist
had no
witchy
knowledge of this
knowledge.
one, like,
Yeah.
none whatsoever. It took
Yeah.
actually a lot of convincing from Nicole, and I'm talking about, like, scripts of everything, like, from books, and it took a lot, and after reading everything and looking through it all, and I was just like, "Oh my god, what?"
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
so let's start at the beginning of the episode, right? And, where you got the idea of the lullaby and how you found that, like, how did that come to you?
Go tell them, Rhodey. Go tell them, Rhodey. Go tell them, Rhodey. The old gray goose is dead. The one she was keeping. The one she was keeping. The one she was keeping for her feathered bed.
That was haunted. That was just walking.
She died on
Damn.
the mill pond. She died on the mill pond. She died on the mill pond, standing on her neck.
So from what I remember again, because when I'm channeling, my memory gets a little wonky. But I did get when I was thinking about Norwich and going there, I was hearing a lullaby, but more so like again like a spirit box where you just get like one or two words and I didn't know what the hell it was. I was like, I don't know what this is creepy as hell. It was talking about like a goose and goslings, and of course I'm thinking like mother goose and stuff, so I start like googling and started adding lullaby and stuff, and then I came across this lullaby called Go Tell Aunt Rhody, and I'm reading the lyrics and I'm listening to it and I'm like, this is exactly what it sounded like to me. So
Mhm.
again, never heard of it before, and this was all like last second. And I came down there, and on the very long drive down, I learned the lullaby. And even as I was like learning it, like I kind of felt like I was getting like images of things, like images of like the kids there, of the
Yeah.
grounds. And then we got there and I didn't even know we were filming. Like I know you'd be filming, but that the other group, I had no idea what was going on. Like I didn't expect to be like on YouTube about it, you know. I just knew I
Yeah.
had to go down there and I was like, we're gonna try something, a little bit of a ritual, I call it, even though it just seems like I'm just singing for them, but there's so much more to it. Just
Oh,
even
absolutely.
energetically. So when we got there, and then I just start singing it, and I was singing it slower and taking pauses so the energy can feed not just the possible spirits, but the environment, charging up the environment, which is part of this ritual, right? And
Hmm.
just seeing if the equipment will react. And as you know from being there, it reacted, and then they were ringing the dead bell the second time around. Like after every line, they were hitting the bell, like whether they were saying keep going or they were trying to participate musically. I just thought it was a very beautiful experience personally. So
It almost seemed like they were wanting to like join in with you,
yeah,
like to play music like with you, to add to the singing. That's almost how I felt from it all, with the way they were really trying to stay on beat
yeah.
um while you're doing that.
Hmm.
Um and I think it was, oh god, if we didn't have like a set time limit to be there, or had any other like explorations there to like go off and see like what these other buildings were like, and I would have happily stayed there. Like, for the first time, Drew goes
Yeah.
into a basement willingly and wants to sit there and keep up with this experience, because you could tell that just, I mean, think about it, right? It's an abandoned place.
Hmm.
Which also, yes, it is abandoned. However, you cannot explore there at all. It is being
Mm.
heavily watched by the town, police, all of that. So please, uh, this was- this episode was filmed back in September, or sorry, August, when the caretaker had it and we had full permission to be there. But now I would not recommend it unless you're trying to get arrested.
Right.
Um, so I just wanted to make sure I said that real quick, because this all happened recently, and because obviously I put my episode out so late, I don't want people to think that you can still go there right now, because you
Yeah.
can't. Um, but it's, with it being abandoned like that, it's like I always felt that they would always be in fear of who's coming into their place now, right? They lived in fear a lot of their lives because they were just dropped off, right? By people who thought they weren't fit for society, or they just wanted to get rid of them. You know what I mean? And then you, now in the afterlife, you're just trying to, whether you're forced to stay there or not, because I know there's those theories about like why do they stay and things like that. But you have people that go in there and break things and spray
Yeah.
paint everywhere and cause so much more damage. And why would you want to come out and just do what you normally do? And then now you have these people that come in and not scream around, jumping around, acting like idiots
Hmm.
just for views, but you have people that are actually trying to come in and talk with you and actually give you something that you've never experienced before.
Right.
So it was definitely a really cool experience. And I'm glad that you
Yeah.
thought of
So it's not, and then I was listening to the lyrics of it too, and it's actually, as you heard, a very depressing song. And when you really
it.
look into it, it's kind of like about like oppression, and then
Hmm.
losing your mother and losing your family. And even it starts from like the mother goose, and then it goes to like the goose died, and then her goslings are left alone. So it's like about like children, like missing their
Yeah.
mother too. And that's, as the song progresses, it becomes about the children in mourning. Oh,
Mm.
that wasn't paranormal. That was just the demons turning my light off. But yeah, do I have to
You
turn
have
a
those?
sorry, do I have to turn a light on? Are you good?
Uh, no, I can still see you. I
Okay,
mean, it's a little
okay, we're
darker. You
good.
just have like the light
Yeah.
on you and stuff like
But
that.
that timing though was impeccable. I mean, I just didn't charge it enough, I guess. But yeah, the timing was like, yeah, sing a song for us. But it's just like I feel like it was more like an offering and an acknowledgement of their pain. And even when they were alive, maybe never having a mother or missing a mother, maybe they were dropped off there. And it's
Hmm.
just I feel like the lyrics of it just really connected even with that. And so, and it's an offering. When you're singing or playing music, it's an offering.
Yeah. So for you though, right, in specific, right, being that
Hmm.
you were the one that all of this came to you, and the fact that you were the one singing it, right? So for you, how was the experience for you?
Definitely emotional because again, as a channel, you feel emotions and stuff too. And again, when I was
Mhm.
getting to those lines, when it was even about the children, it was like very uh strong for me. And even when I was singing, I was hearing it was hard because I knew the lyrics at that point. Again, 3 hours in the car and stuck in traffic. I knew it like the back of my
Yeah.
hands at that point. I was getting confused at some point when I was getting to the part about the Goslings. Like I was hearing different lines of the song, and I don't know if maybe they were trying to rewrite it where it was a happier ending. It just
Yeah.
felt like they were trying to sing like happier songs too as I was singing. And I heard like all different sorts of music, so it did become confusing at one point. But it just you could feel it. I mean, you were there. It was like getting charged, like
Yeah.
the area gets charged, and I was seeing little like, and when they're watching your video, it's why I even said in like the live chat, if anybody wonders what I'm randomly pointing at, like maybe I'm losing my mind, but I was seeing energy wisps and like things, and I almost wish like there was somebody there with like a camera, like a flash camera or even a Polaroid or something
Mm,
to like maybe capture something, because I was seeing like wisps of lights or and dark like shadows and stuff,
yeah.
and it was getting more and more visible to me as time went on.
Yeah. I was gonna say, because I noticed even when I was editing and then obviously watching back um last night of it, it was like you could see yourself pointing out. Obviously, like I really didn't know at the
Yeah,
time. I could
right.
barely hear anyways. But you definitely can see yourself seeing something because you kept pointing a lot. Especially like in the areas like in front of you. And there's like I think maybe a couple times you saw something coming over toward like my area, but I feel like a lot of it
Yeah,
was like strictly in front of you because that's where you see yourself
yeah.
pointing a lot.
Well, the first time I pointed up because I saw something, and I think, and you have to go back and listen to that. I don't know if the audio cuts out for like a split second, but it sounds like it like skips, like it's like all of a sudden like a dip in the audio, and like as I'm
Yeah.
pointing up, and maybe again I hallucinated that, or I was channeling as I was watching it, and that's what happened. But that's why I was curious
Mhm.
to see if that actually happened.
Yeah. I'll have to look back on that and see, and then
Yeah.
I'll let you know on that one. So we're gonna move a little bit.
Okay.
Let's talk about the second half, right? Before we
Mm.
reach the ending where I really know we're gonna get into discussions on that one. So the second
Yeah.
half of this, right, was where we were kind of exploring a little bit, and this is where Drew decides, "Hey guys, I'm gonna go on an adventure on my own." And I think what is it? I think I started to get a little freaked out in the video because I remember like you were starting to kind of like help me process what was going on, and I feel like I kind
Mm-hmm.
of cut you off because I was just trying to come up with some sort of reasoning as to why this specific spot in my head was hurting.
Mm.
Um, and I don't think I was getting it obviously because I don't know. That whole it almost is like it's watching it now, right? So I can remember now, but even when we were talking about before, it was almost like a blur. And even watching, I'm like, I'm trying to figure out where some of the things that I said was coming from because I feel like at some parts of it I just wasn't making sense. Or
Mm.
trying to make sense and it just wasn't working for me. Uh, it's just blurred right there.
I just felt like a wave.
I'm like,
Again,
do you
yeah.
feel anything here? It's bad. Like
This
it
was the first
hurts.
time this, like,
This has got to be new. I don't know if fuck, dude. They're doing something here because this is all new. Is there some sort of like paint smell or something? What is this? That leads to something. Oh. But that's the other building. That's the other side right there. I don't know what the hell's going on in my head. I don't like the feeling though.
yeah, I think we should step out.
I don't know. Do you smell like a chemical?
I smelled something when I turned the corner, but it wasn't paint to me. I couldn't place what
Oh,
the
I was
smell
wondering
But I smelled
if-
the smell was different, though, yeah.
I was wondering if maybe that's what was fucking with my head. Well, that's terrifying. There's stairs that lead down outside. Smoke break. Okay, let's go back this way. I've got fucking... The pain lightened up. There's the smell again. What does this look like to you? I've got chills.
I heard like really clearly just now, Jesus Christ, as if they were praying. That kind of tone. Not like a abrasive cursing kind of way, but like Jesus Christ, like they are singing or praying.
What the fuck is happening? I don't like this feeling in my head. Like it's sharp, it's painful. So in your opinion, what do you think was happening there? I know obviously that we had talked about it a little bit in the live chat, but let's get into it on a deeper level. And
Mm.
your perspective of it all, because obviously you were seeing a lot more than what I was experiencing or whatever.
Yeah. So, I mean, and always it could, this isn't an absolute, right? This is speculation with what I'm picking up. I think with you opening up too in your own little psychic way as we do this, and sometimes when you're even around, by the way, little tidbit, if you're around other people who are also doing this stuff, sometimes it amplifies what you're doing. Like, so you hanging out more with like me or whatever other psychic friends you happen
Mhm.
to have, like it tends to, at least the theory is, like amplify or really open you up to what you're doing. And of course, you have this stuff naturally, right? And you're always working with the dead, and you're doing your
Mhm.
own little necromancy sessions on the side, right? Um,
Mhm.
so that being said, with you being there and the connection you also have to Norwich, and you know, you've told this to me so many times, you have connections to places like this,
Mhm.
like hospitals
Yeah,
like this, right? And we've talked
it's
about this
always
in the past.
hospitals.
Yeah, and we've talked about this, like you maybe even having like past life stuff there, and that's kind of what I think was happening. And a lot of the times too, people, and we've even talked about this already with people, like, you know, you have possessions or mountings and stuff, right? The thing is
Mhm.
too, we all have like a cord of spirits that walk with us, and some of it are even like parts of ourselves in past lives. So what I
Mhm.
think was going on here was um an aspect of yourself in a past life was almost being like triggered by being back there.
Mhm.
And maybe another spirit interacting with you, whether it was from the orphanage or something else. What happens is sometimes they almost like to claim you, like the spirits that already walk with you. So they do things like this trying to take over. And sometimes you can be physically affected. Like even when people get like, which I can't stand, when they're scratched by a demon, you know, thanks Ghost Adventures and the priest on there who started that all. And now everybody says it's the mocking of the Trinity, and not everything is Catholicism, guys. Okay. As a Catholic, you know, I'm Catholic too, so I'm not just knocking you. But a lot of other spiritual practices too, when people get like scratched and stuff, it's because their spirits are taking claim of them. So
Mhm.
what I think is kind of was happening or starting to happen there was another spirit got a little too close to you that maybe they didn't like, that's connected also to places like that, whether it's a hospital or mental, you know, somebody who you may have
Yeah.
been like mentally, very mentally ill in a past life, or at least abandoned, you know, to one of these places. And I think what happened was they were getting closer to you and trying to give you messages, and you were getting like overwhelmed, and starting to feel that pain. And I could see it in your eyes, and you could even see it in the footage. Like you start to get like really, and I call that the look, the channeling look, when you start to get like distant in the eyes, you know,
Mhm.
and your eyes get like really big, and it's like, you know, the lights are on but nobody's home kind of look, you know. And you were going like
Yeah.
in and out of that. And when I even pulled you aside to talk to you, yes, I wanted to like document what was happening, but also when I'm doing that is I'm trying to ground you a little bit. I'm trying to make you
Yeah.
think and get your own, which, you know, I didn't say in the moment, but that's, I try to like pull you in a little bit, you know, like reel it
Mhm.
in, reel it in. So that's what I presume was going on there. And again, I think maybe they even knew that was like one of your last times being there. You know what I mean? Like sometimes spirit knows those things, and maybe they were trying to like really connect with you in that moment as well. Again, I don't know the motivation fully, but I think that's what was happening.
God, I wish we had more time there.
Yeah,
I
I know.
wish. I really do. I mean, God, if I ever like won the lottery, I would have loved to just, hey man, please don't sell it to the town, right? Let me buy
Yeah,
it, right? We'll keep, we'll keep the caretaker on board because obviously she was another one who loved that place just as much.
yeah,
But and just try to keep it running as some way or another because that place was just incredible.
yeah.
Um, so with that, let's get into the feeling cotton candy like.
A little sugary. I feel a little diabetes coming on. Yes.
Oh God, yes. Um, let's talk about that. All right.
Okay.
So let's start off where things started to come about. to
Mm.
lead into the sky, right? Because I feel like we can't just start off with the sky. I mean, we
No.
could, but I feel like we
No.
need to like really build up to lean into that final ending.
Yeah. God.
Mars?
Oh, okay. Aliens? Yeah. We're talking to her.
Wow.
What?
Legion.
Oh,
Oh,
Legion.
fuck you.
Ooh.
What did you get on the picture?
There's a man.
In your face.
Yeah.
Oh.
Is this Jim?
That he was in your face. It's a picture of him in your face.
There's a.
Give us your name so we can speak to you directly.
Dude, it's literally a.
Casualty.
Did you do something?
So we're gonna come up it.
Did it say witch, you said?
Ledge.
Hold on. Is that
Sirens
coyotes?
are going off.
What? That's not sirens. That sounds like coyotes.
Sounds like a whole bunch of coyotes outside.
Interesting. So when that happens, it usually means a gate is open.
I've showed you.
Hecate controls coyotes, and she opens the gate for the dead.
It is.
And the
witching
gate from
hour.
the west, I said before too. So
It's the witching hour.
Yeah, and I heard witch when he said something. I thought he said witch,
There's a
So
little
ledge.
and she's queen of the witches too.
appetite.
Hecate, yeah,
Yeah.
Hecate.
God. Well, we were doing that the Estes session. You and I were outside of it talking, and they were using the VR headset. I forget what that is again. Was it a Ghost Tube? Which
I
one is
don't
it?
remember what the whole like setup is called,
Yeah.
but I do remember Nick telling me that basically like with Ryan being under like assist mode,
Hmm.
Nick was having like the VR set, and it's kind of like a VR head like set, right? Because
Yeah.
you put it over your head, and then you put your phone in that, you clip it in, right? So basically, like the screen of your phone is facing your eyes,
Okay.
and it is through an app. It's called it's through GhostTube, and I want to say it's called like the Seer SEER.
That sounds
And
familiar.
what that does is basically, I think it picks up on the energy of the room. Right. And like obviously with any kind of apps, you really got to be cautious of what it's going to say, what it's going to show you, things like that, and really
Hmm.
question it to find out if it lines up or not with anything that's going on. Right. Um, which I feel like a couple times it did, but it'll basically kind of read the energy and pop up with a photo.
Right.
And it's kind of like AI like, right? Because you know how when you do like
Okay.
these short clips of AI, they kind of like move a little bit and they kind of
Yeah.
change, right? So that's basically like what you're seeing. It's kind of like an AI headset that shows like what it is, whatever the spirit is trying to tell
To
you,
show you.
right?
Okay.
Yes. So, but the best way that I can describe as to what you would be seeing, because they had me try it back when we investigated the first time, and it's basically just like an AI visual of whatever could be going on energetically in that room.
Yeah. Okay. So that was going on, and you and I were outside of it, and it was business as usual for a little bit, and a certain image, like I felt like a shift, and I can't remember which came first with this, but the gate showed up, and whenever he
Hmm.
said a gate showed up, Nick, and I just, and I was spitballing questions, and then after he said that, I got quiet because I felt like an energy, and to me, I
Hmm.
very much associate gates with, the gates of the dead, the gates, like whenever you see a gate, it's like it's about to pop off, like something's about to happen or is happening. Okay.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to read too much into that one image, but I was just like, and even when you listen back to it and you watch, like all of a sudden I'm like quiet for a little bit.
Hmm.
And then the coyotes were going, and it confirmed what I know as as a daughter of Hecate myself, or Hecate, as I
Hmm.
really pronounce her, but most people call her Hecate. When coyotes, when you see the gate, and then when coyotes are going, it means the gate's opening, a portal's opening, or she's announcing her presence, right? It's one of
Yeah.
her forms. And in a lot of the rituals I've done with her in the past, even group ceremonies or whatever, I always either see a coyote or I hear coyotes, and it's not like it's all the time like going
Which
nuts,
was
like,
wild because
yeah.
the whole night though, we didn't hear coyotes once.
No.
Up until that one spot, and it was just literally for just a short time period, and then it
Yeah.
just went like it got quiet again.
Yeah. And when I heard that, I was like, "Oh my god," it's I think I even said, "It's Hecate." Like, I was like, the gates, I was like, I was losing my mind a little bit. And I
Mhm.
didn't expect anybody else to know what that was, because it's not like anybody else there was at least, a practitioner of hers,
Yeah.
She's also very much involved with the paranormal. She controls ghosts. She controls the gates to the dead, the gates to demons, if you believe in that sort of thing. Like, she's who you call on to open the gate. She's the
Yeah.
keeper of the keys. She holds the keys to the gate to the doors. Okay, so and of course I'm like, Nicole, don't get too carried away. Even though you already know what this is, like, still try to pretend like this is an investigation. So I'm still
Mhm.
pretending like I don't know what's actually going on, because she's still
Yeah.
gonna let in the spirits, right? It's not even just gonna be her. Like, if we're doing necromancy and we're calling on ghosts, and I did a ritual pretty much at the beginning of it, which I didn't
Yeah.
consider. I wasn't calling on her. I never would expect her to show up for a paranormal investigation ever. She'd be like the last thing on my mind, especially with like other people I don't know or whatever. Like, I would think if I was by myself or with other practitioners, maybe, she might show up, but it's never on
Yep.
my mind. I'm like, we're talking to the dead. I'm not thinking a possible goddess or whatever's going to show up, or maybe something pretending to be her. I don't know. At this
Yeah.
point, I don't know. I should say. And just with then it was like they were the spirits were fighting, and I was kind of seeing in my mind's eye too, like them almost like they're coming through the gate and they're fighting for attention, because it's like a floodgates now open, right? Because she's like, okay, you guys want the dead, here's the dead. You're in this spot where there's all this trauma and pain. You're near like sacred lands that were probably spiritually practiced on by, like, native, like, there's all this energy there,
Yep.
right? We feel it regardless. So I don't know what the component was that made this happen, but that's what happened. And then what kind of freaked me out was too, even though it's a very common name, and I texted you last night, it's the first time I told you this actually, but when a spirit says the name Jim, even though it's a very common name, I feel like it's something's way of getting my attention. And it said Jim right after the gate, like I was feeling that way, and it went Jim. And I don't think he was necessarily there, but whatever knew that that was like almost like code for me to like wake up,
Yeah.
Nicole, and really pay, like, when I hear, and it's the only time it showed up, that name. And so I don't know, it just felt more of like a, hey, pay attention, I'm here, I know you.
Hmm. So I was gonna say you don't take that as a good thing then. You would take that as like
Not
almost
necessarily. I mean, it could be a good
warning?
thing. It's more like something's happening here and you need to like pay attention, and I did. I was. Um, and then I can't remember if anything happened after the, wasn't he getting something else through the headset? Didn't something else happen? Wasn't it like we talked about Jim, where it said Robert, and then he got like a picture of like a man or something through the thing, like
Mhm.
clear as heck, like right up
Yeah, he
against
said there was
him.
a man that was like kinda like up near his face.
Yeah, and then
I
I
think he
think he
said
got an
I couldn't hear it.
image. Yeah, I think he got an image too of people fighting, was like another one, and that's kind of what I was picking up on in the moment.
Mhm.
And then speaking of like when a spirit box syncs with me, Ryan couldn't hear what I was asking, and it was like I had said something, and he literally like repeated like the same word I had said. So
Yeah.
it's just started getting crazy after that, and then I guess you can explain what we saw when we went to go leave, or if I'm missing anything in between this.
Well, I was gonna bring up too, at the very beginning, like when we first started, very faintly, you can hear Ryan actually say Mars. And I know that
Okay.
also has to
Yeah.
play in with
Yeah.
everything as well. You wanna touch on that one a little bit too so people can kinda understand that?
Oh boy.
'Cause I feel like that was the only other thing leaving out, um, and the plant as well. You asked for white flowers, right? But he said it was a fern. I don't know if that even still, you know, has anything to do with her.
Yeah, I mean, she has a lot of different symbols. I mainly said a lot of them, but like Mars, like there's like an association with the planet with her and stuff too, and I believe
Mhm.
with like the dead and Mars and her planetary significances. I know I sent you like so much stuff at that one time,
Yeah.
but I can't remember fully
Well, I
what
mean,
I
you
sent
did that,
you.
and that's
Yeah,
what convinced me, though, because at first I was
yeah,
like, "How do we really know?" Because it's not like we really dove too much into it, and I
yeah.
know if it would've just been me and you, because once you pick
I
up on
would
that,
have.
I kinda just trust where you're going with it, and
Yeah,
we would've just went with the flow.
right.
Um, but anyways, go on. Sorry,
Yeah, I didn't want when that happens, and I try not to disrespect for it, but at the same time, I'm also not trying to control what everybody else is experiencing, even though I'm having an experience, and I knew, like, they were kind of doing their thing at that point, and it was, you know um maybe they weren't prepared to deal with that. And no, that's the thing. Like, if you don't really know about her, how can you interact with her, appropriately? And
Mhm.
I was kind of like afraid of that too. So I kind of like in my own way acknowledged her and thanked her while it was happening. And then I kind of felt like that dissipated a little bit. And then like when I felt
Mhm.
that happened, things slowed down. Like especially like the REM pod was going off, but then again, we were having, the temperature was dropping and it wasn't a hallway, so we don't really know. But
I was gonna say there's a lot of open,
yeah,
big old holes in the walls outside. So with that, it's really hard because any kind of wind that would roll through there, the thing's gonna go off. Um,
right. So I felt like, the surge of her, and then I kind of felt like she wasn't really necessarily around. I don't even feel like she was in the room with us. I just feel like we tapped into something and she was like, here you go.
yeah.
And then when we went to go leave, we walked out, you and I just went to go leave. I think they were continuing investigate. I can't remember what
Well,
happened
I
because we
was
were
full
tired.
bore out. Yeah,
Yeah, we
I was
were
gonna say you can
tired.
tell from from the beginning of the episode, I'm like ready to go, wide awake. And as soon as we get into Lipit, I'm like, I even I texted you, I was like, I look like I'm gonna hit the floor in like 2 seconds. Like I'm surprised I
Yeah,
didn't pass out on camera because you could tell by my eyes exactly how tired I looked. Same with
yeah,
you. We just looked like something just took us and exhausted us badly. I was
right.
looking for a different word, but I couldn't think of it. Um,
And
so when we walked outside,
yeah. Um, and this is the thing too, like everything I've said to this point, people might be watching this and be like, this wishful thinking on her part, and she's like insane, like you're like connecting again too many dots.
yeah, we're
But
all the
when
same when we talk about
but
this stuff.
but we went outside and we're both like kind of delirious, and I look corner of my eye, I'm seeing like red, like almost not as bright as your background, but it was like red. And I look
Yeah.
up and I'm thinking, oh my God, it's a blood moon. That's crazy. Like that alone to me like meant something like witchy, right? And I'm
Yeah.
looking and I'm like, Drew, why is the sky red? Like I remember I said it like that, and you're like, what? And you like turn and
Yeah,
you look
I'm so
up.
out of it.
Yeah,
But there was no way that my camera and everything was already packed in my backpack, locked in tight.
I know.
There was just would have been no time for me to whip my camera and be like, "Hey guys, look at what we just caught," because this thing was moving fast. And this is what's crazy, right? Is because even though we thought it was a moon, right? Um It was in the clouds. That's what the
Yeah.
wildest part was, is that it wasn't a discoloration within the sky. It was a discoloration in the clouds itself.
Yeah.
And when we thought, because obviously the first thing that we're gonna think of, right, is there's a moon that's shining bright, that's like
Yeah.
behind the clouds or something. And when we turn around, I was like, oh, one, it wasn't even a full moon that
The
night.
moon wasn't
It
even there in that spot. There was no
not
moon
it was
there.
on the other side, on the whole
Yes.
other side of the earth, right?
Yes.
Like and it wasn't a full moon, it was like some sort of a crescent moon that's just white, right?
Right.
Like a normal moon.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we're turning around and we're looking for some sort of reason as to why. And what's crazier is it went from that hot pink reddish color,
Yeah.
it shifted, which I looking at that, right? It looked like a baby lion. Like how Simba is drawn,
Mhm.
how he's drawn on like the wall thing, and he
Yeah.
just that's almost looked like it with like the thing around him, like his mane or whatever
Yeah.
around, but there's a very small, as if it was like a stuffed animal or something. I sound crazy, and I know
I
we
know.
both
This
sound
is one of
crazy.
those things where you experience it and you like have to be there. And we were so stunned at what we were seeing.
Yep,
And Drew, like when I first looked up, it was red. By the time you looked up, it started dissipating into pink a little bit. That's how quickly it was changing. And I was
yep,
waiting to see a moon behind these clouds, and and it was nothing. And then it just like quickly went away. Um,
yep,
and there were no lights. Like again, we're in abandoned like acres and acres. Mohegan
yep.
Sun's across the way. And then I was thinking maybe it's a light shooting up from Mohegan Sun. Maybe there's some sort of celebration going on, or like,
Yeah, which
no,
is
it's not.
logical. It's Mohegan Sun is literally right across the river.
Yeah.
So easily there could have been a light over there, which we drove past. Like we had to drive past Mohegan Sun when we left to get back onto the highway. And when we drove past it, I called you. I was like, there's no lights.
Yeah.
Like
No,
no
but we would
no
have seen like
spotlights
even
are
like
on
a
at
stream
Mohegan
of we
Sun.
would have seen like a
Oh
stream of
yeah.
spotlights, and we're like looking, and it's not like again it changed from like red to pink. It like dissipated. It's not like it was even like a light was there and then it shut off. It was like we were watching it like quickly transform into like really clustered clouds into like barely nothing. It like cleared up, like there was nothing. It
Yep.
was like watching a movie, and I was like, dude, I like even said to you, I was like, are we tripping right now? Like, what's happening? Like, we didn't even think to even hit record on our cell phones because it happened that quickly, and we
No,
were
I was just
so.
sitting there taking photos because I'm
It's
like,
like
this is
seeing it. It was
changing,
like
and I'm
seeing
just
an
trying to capture everything because nobody's gonna believe us if we try to talk
no,
about it.
it was like seeing an alien ship in the sky. Like in that
Yep.
moment, you're just so like overwhelmed and trying to process what you're seeing.
Yep.
And then I said, I think I don't know if I said it to you or you started doing it, but I was like, take pictures. I was like, do something because I was just like, this week, like nobody's gonna believe us that we saw
Yeah.
this. And even by the time you took the picture, it was already starting to dissipate. And then when you
But
post, go ahead,
I was gonna
go ahead.
say, but the weirdest part when it started to shift the first time, right after we saw it being like that pinkish reddish, it started to shift into shapes of things,
Yeah,
right? And normally, I don't really see shapes in clouds. Like I've never been able to lay down on the grass and be like, "Oh, that's a flower. Oh, that looks like a snowman," or
yeah,
whatever the case. I've never been able to do that. Like I try, but my ADHD brain is like, "No. Let's focus on other things, like 10 other things at the same time," right? So, for me to even help pointing out, like I'm like, "Damn, like this looks like some sort of a face," right? And you said lion, but I'm like, "But the fire coming out of its mouth. There's
yeah,
flames, like this lion is breathing fire out."
yeah,
And the snake on the other side.
yeah.
And you
So
immediately was
snakes,
like,
yeah,
"That's the message, that's it."
yeah. Yeah, so snakes are one of her things, and then an obscure thing about her too is lions, which a lot of people don't know unless you're a practitioner. And we had
Mhm.
posted this, or you had posted this picture because you know it was yours, and we put it up. And
Yep. Yeah, because I
obviously, I
was
have
too
witch
mind blown by
friends.
this.
I have friends that are like serious practitioners, and we didn't say,
Yep.
"Oh, it's Hecate." We said nothing like that front loaded that information.
Yeah.
And she goes, "Hail Hecate" in the comments, my friend, and
Yep.
I was like, "Oh my god!" And then she goes, "There's the lion. She's looking out for you and closing the portal, making sure you got home." And I was like, we didn't say anything to her, and she knew what it
Mm-mm.
was. So it was just like more confirmation that whatever we experienced must have been part of her. And for me, even knowing from seeing the gate, I was like, is she here? I was like, would
Mhm.
she be here? Like I was having this whole like moment of why would she want to be recorded? Because it's sacred, you know? Like it's not like I do
Yeah.
witchy stuff and I record this stuff. Like you keep it to yourself. You know what I mean? Like it's not like she
Mhm.
shows up to perform, which is why when people say they see demons and stuff, and I'm like, you guys have no idea.
Yeah.
Like they're not gonna show up and perform for you like a puppet, you know, like Hakate is not gonna show up and perform like a puppet. She doesn't have to prove
Oh,
anything.
hell no.
Yeah. So I was almost like like on the line of like, is this now disrespectful? Like I was having a whole like crisis in my mind about what to do from there, you know.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't believe what we saw when we went outside. I was like, I still can't believe it.
Yeah, no, it's so wild. And even still, like, when I tell people about this, they're just like, "Nah," like, they don't believe me, and
Yeah.
then I show them photos, I'm like, "How do you explain that?"
Yeah.
I've never like, obviously, like, my first thought when I saw the cloud, I was like, "That looks like cotton candy cloud," and my first thought was aliens, and I'm like, "No,
Aliens.
no way." But then when you started showing me all this stuff, I'm like, "We were in the presence of a goddess, and I looked
Yeah.
like a mess. I was just
Yeah.
sitting in rat shit in another building, you know? I coulda cleaned up a little better." Like, that was
I
it
mean,
I joke about it, but it's like,
yeah.
it's still wild to me because it's just one of those things that you really just you cannot believe that that really happened. It's like you said before, it's a once in a lifetime that
Yeah.
anything like that.
And I don't and you know, of course it could have been anything else, but there was just so many symbols and signs and things that I personally associate with her.
Mhm.
So who knows? Could have been anything going on, but for me, that was what it was. And for somebody again randomly who I didn't tell anything about this to, and we put nothing in the photos for her to just be like, "Hail Hakate," and I was like, "Are you kidding me right now?" Because that's
Yeah.
insane.
I feel like that was, like, the real confirmation for it all because,
Yeah,
like, even, like, after you tell me, I feel like you even was, like, kinda, like, still questioning it because it's one of those
I
things that's
always
just so
do.
hard to believe. Yeah, and then when you see that come across, it's like, "Oh, shit," you know, and when I remember you screenshot it and you sent it to me, you're like, "Look, dude, like, see?" And I'm like, "Fuck?" Like,
Yeah.
holy shit. That really happened. Like, I still almost feels like a dream to this day, because it's just unbelievable
Yeah.
still.
And she really helps like the suffering and stuff too, like, and she's who you go to like really shed the darkest parts of yourself, and it's not pretty. So part of me
Mhm.
also wonders tying this in, did she maybe see, doing the singing and the offerings and like us being so great to the dead when we were there, was that her way of maybe acknowledging us or the experience or even the dead that were there? Maybe it wasn't about us,
Mm.
maybe it was about the dead. I don't know what exactly the
Yeah.
catalyst was, but for her to be one of my, again, like patron, deities, and like showing, I was like, this is insane. And she always shows up like so dramatically. I mean, not that dramatically, but again, like I'll always get the coyotes or something like that.
Yeah. Which is still
It's
wild
crazy.
because you literally only heard them for just a short amount of time, and it was just enough for us to acknowledge it. Because even Nick heard it. You hear him, he's like, "Dude, do you hear what's, like, going on
Yeah.
outside?"
I think he
You
pointed
know?
it out, and I was still
Mhm.
processing the gate
Right
thing.
before that, you have to have headphones on to hear it because it's so faint, and I tried to
Yeah.
get it for where I could turn the volume up on it, but when I was doing so, it brings up the background because it's all background noise. It brings up all of the other background noise, so
Mhm.
it wasn't working, and maybe I need to figure it out more when it comes to, like, audio engineering or something, but
It was
I
too
couldn't do it
faint.
enough. But if you put headphones on and you listen to the spot right before Nick says it, you can kinda hear, like, the faintest howl. That's
Yeah.
when I told her, I was like, "It's there. It's, like, barely there, but it's there." And then you'll hear Nick say, "Oh, like, did you guys hear what's going on outside?" Because it got wild for a little bit, and then, like, right after that, after we heard them, they stopped. It was, like, just enough for us to acknowledge the coyotes, and
Yeah.
then that was it.
Yeah. I don't know. I still haven't figured that one out, but I mean, obviously, I have my biases about it, so I don't know. That's just wild. That, and then again with the somebody commenting, that for me was kind of like, okay, you're not crazy. Like you
Yeah,
need to believe this was her. You know?
absolutely. I think you needed that most of all to really confirm what you were picking up on, what you were seeing, everything, like, the entire experience.
Yeah, and I mean, again, spirits of the dead are also her thing. So, like anybody investigating, you never know. Maybe she'll show up if you're meant to be a practitioner or you are a practitioner. And I don't know. I don't know what the exact rules are that she plays by with that, but who knew she'd show up? Who knew? Or something like that would show up correlating to her.
Yeah,
But
absolutely. All right, so we're coming down on our time now. All right, so
okay.
the last thing that I want to ask you is, do you have anything exciting coming up that you want to share? Any upcoming events or anything like that that you want to talk about?
Always events, so go to NicoleNightfall.com because I've always got something going on.
Hmm.
Mainly based out of Hudson Valley, New York area. I am doing a year-long paranormal course at Light Club Curiosity Shop. I'm doing that once a month. You don't have to go to every single class, but teaching a lot about different theories in the paranormal,
Hmm.
history of the paranormal, whether it's the spiritualist movement or even, as Zach Bagans is part of my course as well, like kind of exposing and talking about him.
Hmm.
And methods and working with equipment. So that's going on. I usually do readings at certain events. But yeah, just check out my event page on NicoleNightfall.com, and hopefully, um, depending on what happens with the tariffs, I may be having a certain deck coming out end of this year
Ooh, okay.
for death witches and paranormal investigators. So be on the lookout for that.
You say Death Witches?
Death witches.
Ooh, sounds like it's up my league then.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is. Well, and paranormal investigators because it has to deal with the dead. So yeah.
We love the dead on this channel.
Yeah. And it's not a tarot deck, it's its own type of divination, so that I'm developing. So, yeah,
Is
be
it
on the look.
really?
Yeah, so it's gonna either gonna be hope well, again, depends on the tariffs because I have to get it
Yeah.
printed in a certain country. But hopefully this year. If not, it'll be next year. But just stay tuned for that.
Well, you heard it here first.
You did
So
actually.
if you didn't,
Yes.
oh, okay, good. Because even if you didn't,
Yeah.
you did.
And all the artworks
Um,
and all the artwork's done, so y'all can't evil eye jinx me. It's already done. It's just the tarot that is what it is, and y'all didn't hex it out of me. So no evil eye on that.
hello.
No, to my haters.
All right. So, so you heard it. Check out NicoleNightfall.com on all of her events will be posted there. Always keep up with the updates. Make sure you follow her socials too, because I
Yeah,
even noticed that she does readings on the socials and everything
I do.
else.
Instagram
Um,
especially. Yeah.
yeah, and check those out. She's really good. I've signed up for one before, and I'm definitely gonna be signing up for another one soon because I can't read myself and I need help with that. So that's why I go to Nicole. So,
Mm, common
um,
thing. Don't worry. A lot of us can't
yeah,
read ourselves.
it drives me nuts. I try, but then I get so much coming through that I feel like are a lot of my own thoughts like interfering. So it's just easier for me to go to somebody else. So, and Nicole is a good
Yeah.
go-to for all of that. So check her out socials. I'll make sure that they are in the description below. I will make sure to tag her, follow her YouTube because she does do investigations as well.
I do.
And she just posts them on there.
Yeah.
And you'll see her in a lot of mine as well. So make sure you stay tuned for other videos that I have to drop.
Go watch our Norwich
Otherwise,
episode.
yeah, I
Then you'll
highly
know what we're
recommend it.
talking about.
Yes. So, and if you like it, go ahead and comment your favorite part of it. Like the video, share it with your friends. It was definitely a weird experience, but I think you guys will like a lot of it, and I think you guys will also understand more so of the ending now that we've actually went in depth and explained it. We couldn't do that obviously in the moment,
Yeah.
but looking back at it all, I feel like it was important to really make sure that we explained a lot of it, so you guys don't think that we're crazy and just throwing shit out there. But thank you again, Nicole, for coming on. I had a
Thanks
lot of
for
fun with
having
this
me.
talk.
Yeah,
Oh,
me
there'll
too.
definitely be another episode with you on. Don't think that's not happening. So
Oh, thanks. Yeah, we always have a lot to talk about. So,
always. Um,
if they don't think we're crazy now, they will if they keep listening to us. So maybe that's a goal. Just think we're crazy. Here we go. That's a goal.
Probably why I mean, I've always been meant to, live my life in asylum. So, past life,
Full
current life,
circle.
future life, like we're here for it. So, I mean, you just give me my straight jack already. I mean, that should be like my Letterman for high school, right?
Yep, I'll see you there with it. I'll have a matching one. We'll be good. Matching straight
Hell yeah.
jackets. Oh, yeah.
To everybody else, thank you so much for watching and tuning in. Stay tuned for more episodes because I have a long list of the people that I want to not investigate, Jesus. Interview. Wrong choice of words there.
He won't be
So yeah,
looking into you. Don't worry.
yeah, no, definitely not. I really don't care about all of that. So as long as you're a good person, that's all I care about. But anyways, so thank you again for watching. Thank you, Nicole, for coming on.
Sure.
And with that, I wish you guys all a good rest of your night. Stay
Sweet
tuned for more.
dreams.
That sounds terrifying.